right, welcome back. You're still tuned in to the Business Morning on the Breakfast Show. Now let's move on to our second conversation for today. One of the pressing challenges facing African economies, including Nigeria, is a high dependency on the US dollar for trade settlement. This has often put pressure on local currencies and created volatility in foreign exchange market. Now, regional integration efforts, especially in the Pan-African payment and settlement system, are seeking to change this by enabling cross-border trade in local currencies. The goal is to reduce dollar reliance, strengthen intra-African trade under the AFCFTA, and ease forex pressure for businesses across the continent. But how far can these initiatives go in addressing Nigeria's foreign exchange challenges, and what opportunities or risk lies ahead? Joining us to unpack this is Opeyemi Awotunde. He is a technical consultant that is for AI and intelligent system. Good morning, Mr. Opeyemi Awotunde. It's good to have you on Business Morning Show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's go straight into our conversation. So to start with, can you explain what the Pan-African payment and settlement system is and how it is expected to transform cross-border payments in Africa?
Thank you very much. That's a good question. So to our viewers and audience, Pan-African payments settlement system basically allows people of African origin who live in Africa to also do business with their African neighbors. You know, what exists today is you want to send money to your friend or your brother from Nigeria to Ghana, but you have to first and foremost change it into US dollars, and then from US dollars, you change it back to Ghana cedis, you know. So what the PAPSS system is trying to do is to limit the number of hands that touches the money that you make, you know. The PAPSS system will allow someone who does business in Nigeria to send money to someone in Ghana without having to really rely on the US dollar. So that's what it simply means.
All right. So why is reducing Africa's dependency on the US dollar for trade such a critical issue right now?
I believe that it is important that we have this conversation going on. This is not a new topic of discussion. I mean, in some circle, especially with the banking system, the Central Bank of Nigeria, Central Bank of Ghana, you know, this is a conversation that's been going on as far back as, I think, 2019, thereabout. So it is more pressing now because we need Africa to rise, you know, not just rise in terms of visibility, but in terms of economic visibility. So I'll give you some statistics to back this up, right? Most of the businesses that are done in Africa, only about 15% of those businesses are intra-African trades. And so what does that tell someone? That tells you that we don't actually extract the most value for what we produce in Africa. So one of the reasons why that exists is because there is so much friction when it comes to intra-African transactions. You know, when you send money to someone and then it touches the US dollar first, you're paying a transaction fee, you're paying a bank fee. And when it comes from US dollar back to the local currency of the person you're trying to interact with, you're also paying another fee. So when you look at this, it sort of stifles the economic power of Africans in general and doing business in general. So I think it's a conversation that's super, super important that we have now, given that there's a lot more opportunity for us to collaborate as Africans and do business within ourselves. So that's why I think it's an important conversation.
All right, let's look at all of this as an impact on Nigeria. Now, from Nigeria's perspective, what particular practical benefits could the PAPSS or other regional FX solution bring to our economy and businesses?
There's a lot that I can do for us as a nation, right? I'll give you an example. Before now, access to credit has been quite difficult, but due to the innovation of basic KYC solutions, you know, many small, medium businesses can now begin to access credit. The same goes for the PAPSS system, right? I remember that the CBN recently, earlier in the year, adjusted some of their regulations as to how to ensure that small business owners can begin to do intra-African transaction easily. So they also try to integrate into the PAPSS system. And because now they've done that, it is easy for someone who manufactures a product in Africa, before even looking at the rest of the world to come buy from him or her, can easily talk to another African consumer, So it is super important that we understand what this can do for us as a nation. Nigeria is blessed with so many natural resources. I know that currently we are not extracting as much value, but when we get to that point, we would need a system like this to be able to send some of our produce, some of the values we've extracted here in Nigeria to other African countries that may have need for it, and then they pay us, and that grows our economy. So that's why it's important.
All right. So do you think these systems can help ease the persistent pressure on the Naira in the medium term?
Yes, I actually think so. I think it can.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because it allows for price stability. I saw a small video on Instagram early in the year where someone says, I want to buy bread, and the person said, oh, this is the price of the bread. And the lady asked, why is this the price? And the seller said, oh, dollar has increased. And the person looked confused, like, how does the increase in dollar affect the price of the bread? Right. Issues like that on a larger scale is what the PAPSS system will take out of the way, because now there's more control, and the central banks of every country also provide access to foreign exchange. For example, part of the regulation that the CBN have put in place earlier in the year is such that the authorized dealer banks, who can provide foreign exchange for small business owners, they have been licensed to also provide certain amount of money. I think it's about $2,000 or $5,000 thereabout. So they've been given the license to make it available, and that way it can fast track payments. The time it takes for you to get your money into your account is faster. So, some of these little regulations here and there has made it important and has made it very possible.
Okay, so how do you think Nigeria manufacturers, the exporters, and small medium enterprise can leverage the PAPSS to expand their presence in African market?
It's very easy to do that, for Nigerian manufacturers, like I mentioned earlier. Now we are not waiting for China, we are not waiting for Portugal, we are not waiting for France to come buy from us. We have our nearest neighbors, who can easily buy, and then we can transact and exchange value in terms of Naira or Ghana cedis or whatever currency it is. So now the manufacturers in Nigeria, one of the ways they can leverage the PAPSS system is by, making awareness about it, talking about it. Oh, my business accepts your local currency. You can have some of these little awareness designs in your store. I accept Ghana cedis. You remember with the issue of Bitcoin, when Bitcoin boomed and it became a thing for everyone, people began to put on the tables of restaurants, oh, we accept Bitcoin here. The same thing, we accept your local African currency here. So I think one of the first things to do is to create awareness about the fact that this is a thing, and we definitely have infrastructure to accept your local currency.
All right. So do you think local banks and the fintechs are ready to adapt to this shift in payment infrastructure?
That's a very good question. I think with time, we'll get there, right? I'll give you a little bit of history. I know that in 2022, right, there's been a collective agreement among the central banks of countries in West Africa precisely that they should begin integrating their backend into the PAPSS system. But it's been quite slow. As you know, with every technical integration, there's always regulatory issues, process issues, complications, and all of that. However, it is yet to be, on the front end, right, it is yet to be public. But I'm aware that there are some back-end integrations going on with central bank of different countries and also with some major banks across different countries. So I think with time, we'll get there. It might be a slow process, but we'll definitely get there. And I'm sure by the time we get there, the fintechs will be ready, to leverage this particular solution. Yeah.
All right, let's move to the challenges and the risks. So what do you think are the major challenges that could hinder the adoption? Do you think it's trust issues, regulatory alignment, or technological gap?
I think it's a combination of what you mentioned. It could be a combination of trust, technology gaps, and even regulatory issues or policies. I believe that some of the challenges that we need to begin to address head on. Number one is the knowledge gap. So people need to be aware that this is an initiative that can help us as Africans do business amongst ourselves and retain the value that we create, and then export the excess of that value to the rest of the world. So that's number one. Number two, of course, technology gap. I don't think there is a large deficit when it comes to technical skills in order to implement this. However, what can slow down technical skills in order to complete this would be regulatory issues, right? And also the interest of the government is super, super important. That's one thing people don't really talk about much. When we're talking about fast-tracking initiatives at this scale, we need to also mind the interest of the government in this particular initiative. So those are the few things I think might slow it down, but I believe that there are no challenges that can put a stop to it. The only challenge is that if properly managed, we'll still get to a point where the PAPSS system is useful to everyone.
All right, still on the challenges and the risk. How do you think Nigeria can ensure that the regional system don't just exist on paper, but actually gain traction among businesses?
I think that one of the ways we can do that, as a nation, is to provide an alternative way of payment, as the PAPSS system. So the way I'm thinking about this is the small, medium businesses can begin to run a parallel payment system. You have your tap to pay, you have your card, you have your cash, and also you have a system that allows you take foreign currencies that are not the Nigerian Naira and then can be processed easily. So I believe that one of the ways to do that is a parallel payment system. And then over time, we can fully switch to the PAPSS system, and it becomes a one unified platform that accepts all forms of payment.
Okay, so let's look at the future now. Do you see regional FX solutions complementing or even replacing the Nigeria's traditional dependence on the dollar in trade?
I think it might not replace it, because even with the PAPSS system, you still need the US dollars. Let's be honest. What is just changing is the fact that now you don't have to source for the dollar. The Central Bank of Nigeria had licensed the authorized dealer banks to float, the dollar and make it available to people who have been licensed to carry out, cross-border transactions. So I don't think we would get to a point where we wouldn't need the dollar no more. I mean, that's a distant future, in my opinion, right? But I believe we can reduce the dependency on the dollar pretty much. Also, the government needs to also help us in terms of liquidity by ensuring that there's availability of this foreign exchange, So that's how I think about that.
All right, finally, before I let you go, what key reforms should Nigeria prioritize to fully take advantage of this regional integration effort?
I think one of the key reforms that I would suggest at this point is campaign for trust, really. A lot of people, or a lot of Nigerians, do not believe in certain initiative as long as it's coming from within the country. We love, or we have the idea of importing solutions to solve our problem. So I believe that at the national level, be a major reform to trust our own solutions, so that there is a proper infrastructure that would make these solutions thrive and deliver the value they promise to to deliver, because the basis of lack of trust is also built on the fact that delivery sometimes is not being met as expected. So we need a proper infrastructure. That's number one. We need to campaign for trust. That's number two. And number three, we need to also ensure that there is easy collaboration between the countries that have decided to do business amongst themselves. So these are the three key reforms: infrastructure, be it technology, campaign for trust, and also collaboration, access, easy access to the end market that consumes whatever is being produced. Because without the markets, there's no exchange of value. So those are the three key reforms I'll suggest at this point.
Thank you so much for your insights, Emmanuel, for your insight, Mr. Opeyemi. It's good to have you on the Business Morning.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
We're on to Opeyemi Awotunde. He's a technical consultant, AI and intelligence system. And this is where we've come to an end on the Business Morning. Up next is the big story, so stay with us.